Unfortunately, I didn't choose the name electronic cigarette, but it's got the word cigarette in it, and it's very hard to unring that bell. And sometimes I say, our product's as much a cigarette as a car, an electric horse.
Hi, I'm Tracy Oppenheimer for Reason TV, and today we're in Scottsdale, Arizona at the Enjoy headquarters, and Enjoy is one of the leading manufacturers of electronic cigarettes, and we're joined with CEO Craig Wife. Craig, thank you so much for having us here.
Thank you.
To start off, can you just talk about the size and scope of the industry and how you've seen it expand since you got involved a few years ago?
The electronic cigarette industry is growing at quite a dramatic pace. It's more than doubled each of the last 4 or 5 years, and we're on pace right now, according to some tobacco analysts, to hit well over $1 billion in retail sales in the United States only in 2013. The global estimates for the category are about $3 billion. And why that's significant is the global nicotine replacement therapy market, or NRT market, is about $2.7 billion. So electronic cigarettes in a very short period of time has already passed a pharmaceutical industry, and they had like a 30-year head start.
And can you talk about if there's been a transformation in public perception of electronic cigarettes?
As the popularity of the product grows, you're seeing a shift, not just among members of the public. So, in New York City 2 years ago, if you use an electronic cigarette in a restaurant, someone would come over and say, sir or ma'am, you can't smoke here. Now you're seeing 3 or 4 people in that same restaurant, and no one's saying that because they know it can't be a cigarette. And you're seeing also a shift in the perceptions of the public health community. So whereas a few years ago you had a knee-jerk reaction of, if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it must be a duck. And of course, that's not reason, that's not science, that's not data-driven, that's just a reflex. Now you're actually seeing more careful study and analysis by members of the public health community.
Has there been a change in the consumer market at all? Is it still mostly people who are trying to quit smoking?
Almost every single person that we have ever seen use the product is a smoker. Smokers are looking to use the product for different reasons. Some of them are doing it for the convenience of using a product where they can't smoke. So the convenience is one. Odor is another big one. So for smokers, odor is often as big a deal as anything else, because what a cigarette may be doing to a person's individual health is, in some ways just up to them. And what they choose to do, whether it's to drink alcohol or eat sugar or smoke, that's their decision. But odor affects others. It affects the people around you. And so to use a product that doesn't have the odor so that it doesn't impact others, that's a really big deal for smokers. And then obviously, smokers, according to the CDC, 70% of them want to quit or reduce their smoking consumption. So being able to have a product that's an alternative to a product that they want to use less is very attractive to them.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but technically right now you're not allowed to label it as a smoking cessation device?
That's correct. So the only way to say that the product is effective for cessation or that it's better for you or therapeutic than smoking would be to go through an FDA drug application process, clinical trials, and get FDA approval to make those therapeutic or cessation claims. No one in the electronic cigarette industry has done that, and so as a result, we can only refer to our product as a smoking alternative.
The FDA is expected to come out with some sort of regulation at the end of October. Do you think that will change? Do you think you'll have to submit it for clinical trials or anything like that?
The FDA's regulations that are likely to come out before the end of this year are going to be under their authority under the Center for Tobacco Products. And the Center for Tobacco Products has jurisdiction over tobacco products and products derived from tobacco under this 2009 Family Smoking Prevention and Tobacco Control Act. And it's different from their drug jurisdiction. Their authority is more limited under the Center for Tobacco Products. So what we expect to see are regulations like ingredient disclosures, good manufacturing practices, age verification, things that will prevent youth access to the product.
What about more of the local legislation, the ban saying you can't vape indoors?
When the government made the decision to ban indoor tobacco smoking, that was based on very real, rigorous scientific testing and data that showed that secondhand smoke was harmful. Well, there's no evidence to support that the exhaled vapor mist is harmful, and in fact, some of the increasing published peer-reviewed scientific research is showing that it certainly doesn't have anything close to the harm potential of tobacco cigarettes, and it's not clear to me whether it has any harm whatsoever. And so our policymakers in government should be making all of their decisions based on science and data. And so not on conjecture, not on, well, if it looks like a cigarette, it must be a cigarette. That's not data, that's not science, and that's not how we should be making decisions.
Do you think that if your product didn't look like a cigarette, there wouldn't be as much skepticism?
Part of it, I think, is a combination that it does look like a cigarette, creates some of that confusion. Part of it's also, unfortunately, I didn't choose the name electronic cigarette, but it's got the word cigarette in it, and it's very hard to unring that bell. And sometimes I say, our product's as much a cigarette as a car, an electric horse. But unfortunately, it's got that name. I mean, we have no tobacco in our product. We don't combust. We're not burning anything. We're not lighting anything on fire. And while it might look like a cigarette, inside is an integrated circuit chip, lithium-ion battery, a heating element, a fairly sophisticated chemistry. There's a lot going on in a fairly small package.
So do you think it's ironic that for a country that's been trying to eradicate traditional cigarettes for so long that there's been a little bit of backlash against a product that's supposed to be helping with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting. It's a very interesting situation that the government and public health has spent billions of dollars for decades to try to stem the tide of this public health epidemic. And yet, despite all of these resources that have been spent by the government, they really haven't made a really serious dent in the last 10 years in the number of people who smoke in this country. And what I think is amazing about what a company like NJOY is doing is we're using technology, and that's what we do in America. We use technology to solve really complicated problems. And so we're using technology to address this really systemic problem, this public health epidemic, in the sense that if you look, again, back at the data, the number of people smoking has been decreasing as the popularity of electronic cigarettes has been increasing.
Great. Well, Craig, thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
For Reason TV, I'm Tracy Oppenheimer.